Good morning, children. With it being New Year's Eve, I have decided to talk about my reading goals and kind of include the goals that I did meet last year. Honestly, the only two goals I set up for myself this last year is to read 100 books and to add a bit more YA to my reading thing to see what's new. I accomplished both. I read 120 books this year after Bird Box is finished. I think Goodreads is going to say 119. That's because one of the books I read doesn't exist on Goodreads yet. More on that later, hopefully. Yeah, definitely met those. So I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do this year, which is going to be a pretty lofty goal for me next year since I want to really challenge myself. I'm going to try to go for 150. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty lofty. Not as lofty as you'd think. I was about to say 200 and like go full throttle, but like I'm gonna kind of build my way to that maybe next year. Not next year, maybe the next after next year. With that, I'd like to mature my reading just a little bit, add a bit more to reviews. I'd like to do a lot of single reviews for books instead of like just adding it all at wrap up at the end of the month, because I like to be thorough with these things. And I feel like I just don't do enough filming, so hopefully I'm going to have more content out there next month. My layout's going to change. I have 2 new bookshelves coming in this next week. Way excited about that. I've got new books I'm excited to show you guys. I also was going to do a book Christmas haul this video, but decided to put that off because I still have a bit more to do because I got some Christmas money I need to spend. So I'll just put all that in one big video. More content I want to add next year is I'd like to read more nonfiction. I'd love to read more historical fiction. I would love to read a bit more YA, get a more solid opinion on that because I had been stuck in my ways for so long of not reading YA. And I found out there's a couple of good ones out there, so I need to do a bit more searching to find out kind of what I like in that. It's not even a genre for that age group. I don't know, I guess technically I'm a young adult, but I'm a salty old man at heart. So like, there's a lot of tropes I can't stand, but I'd like to navigate through some of them to see some value. With that, I'm gonna say the top 19 books I want to read for 2019. Starting out, I'd like to read more series. I'm kind of set in my ways of just reading standalones, and I'd like to get a little bit out of that, see what else is out there series-wise, because there's a lot of stuff I've been really excited to read, and I just haven't got to it because series always seem like a big commitment, and I am more of a one-night stand kind of gal when it comes to my books. I really want to read the, I think it's just called the 1 Second After trilogy by William R. Oh, that could have gone wrong. By William R. Fortune. This one is a post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic plus post-apocalyptic series. I know absolutely nothing about. I'm gonna keep it that way. But yeah, getting into the YA stuff series-wise, because it seems like everything YA is a series now. It's crazy. First is Neil Shusterman's Scythe series. I know there's only 2 out right now, but I'm gonna try that out. Next one is one I've been hearing about forever, but I just never got to it. But I finally got the first and second book this year, and that is the Grisha trilogy, starting with Shadow and Bone, Daughters of Smoke and Bone, and that's by Laini Taylor, whom I'm hearing a lot of great things about right now. So gonna try that out. Didn't I just say Smoke and Bone? Shadow and Bone, totally different. Next is a series I've been wanting to read for the longest time. it's such a big commitment, but I'm gonna try to do it. There's 13 books to this one. They are pretty hefty books, about 800 pages long each, and that is the Wheel of Time series, starting with Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite fantasy writers at the moment, so it only makes sense I go to the thing that inspired him to do his in-depth magic systems and cool characters. He actually finished this series after Robert Jordan sadly passed. Another YA, the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I just got a copy. I'll try it out. I saw the movie. It had a cool concept, but not a really good execution. So I'm hoping the book is better. Then going back to Laini Taylor, have to do the one everyone's been flipping out about, Stranger Dreamer. It's very shiny. I think that's it for my series right now. So another YA, and I think last on this list I want to try out, is a Hazelwood. I bought it just for the cover. Okay, now finally getting to stuff I have been dying to read. Okay, so starting out is a Russian fantasy book. It takes place in a Russian setting, and that is The Bear and the Nightingale. Definitely want to read this before winter's up because it just looks so snowy and cool, and I've been hearing nothing but hype. Oh, forgot about a series. Well, okay, it's more of a duology. It's Carrie Fisher's Postcards from the Edge. I'm trying to make it a point to read everything Carrie Fisher has written. I've read all of her biographies 2 years ago, and she is the love of my life, I swear. And I'm gonna read some of her fiction, finally. I'm so hyped. Carrie Fisher has an incredibly dry and dark sense of humor, and she's so self-deprecating in like the funniest way, and I love her to death. One science fiction author I have been avoiding for years. I don't even know why. I have just had his books for like ever, and I just have decided not to read them. But this year I'm gonna make it a priority to read a Philip K. Dick book. This one is The Man in High Castle. Of course, I'd also like to read The Scanner Darkly and do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. He is just such an icon in science fiction, and I feel terrible I haven't gotten to him yet. So that's going to be what 2019 is for. A very philosophical writer I have been dying to read and have not read yet is David Mitchell, and I have been dying to read his books Cloud Atlas and The Bone Clocks. Gonna try those out. Cloud Atlas, I've seen the movie, so I have a pretty good idea what that one's about, which is all over the place, and it's just talking about life and like the connectivity of people like throughout generations and like the impacts you make on generations. It's a really big story. I am hyped to read the book. Bone Clocks, no idea. Other than that's the same author, and if I like Cloud Atlas, I'm gonna read this. So I'm gonna keep with my theme of continuing to read all of Stephen King's books. He has so many, and I just recently started working on it, and I realized I like his dramas more than I like his horror. So with that, I'm going to make it a priority to read Dolores Claiborne, which is about a dynamic between a mother and a daughter, except the mother may or may not have been a murderer. And I think there is some supernatural elements in it, but the drama is the main focus. That's why I really liked The Green Mile. I will shout that to the sky. That is my favorite book of his right now. So I'm ready to read more of his drama and more less character-driven plots. So speaking of drama, I have the apparently saddest book ever written. I hear A Little Life is supposed to be just sad and then sadder and then sadder and sadder and sadder, and the book even looks upset to exist. So I am going to definitely be reading this one. It's a pretty big one, about 700 pages. Some new releases I am way hyped about reading. This one was a Christmas present. It was A Washington Black by Essie Ediugian. This one has an excellent sounding premise. It's a fantasy type book that takes place pre-Civil War in America, where an inventor buys a slave. It's a little boy. Sets him free, and he becomes his apprentice, and they like make flying machines and have adventures and stuff. It just sounds so nice. It just sounds like a really nice plot. I am way excited to read this one. And then two other ones were once for my Book of the Month Club that I just didn't have time to read by the end of the year, and I feel terrible for it, but you know, that is Severance by Ling Ma. This one is kind of a ridiculous concept for a post-apocalyptic book. It is about a workaholic who gets paid to stay in an abandoned city to run an entire company by herself after like the world has ended or whatever, or like everyone gets evacuated because there's this huge virus or whatever that goes through, and she just stays behind to work. Like, okay, that's like workaholic to the extreme, and I appreciate that. Another one for my Book of the Month was Ladder to the Sky, which I still haven't read, but this is about a writer who will do absolutely anything to get to the top, and it's supposed to be a very backstabby, manipulative book with an unlikable lead, and I'm all for that. Then, the 19th book that I want to read in 2019 is going to be an undertaking. This is one I have been dying to read for a really long time, but it just terrifies me for more than one reason. First off, it is over 1,000 pages long. It is like 1,040 something pages. It is the brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I love Fyodor Dostoevsky. I love his writing. I have read The Idiot, Crime and Punishment, Notes from the Underground. I love it all. He has such a cynical way of writing. He has incredible characters. I've been scared to read this one in the past, not only for its size, but this was his dying work. He was trying to get this written before he did die, and not just finished, but he wanted to discover something big and say something big about life. So this is like his dying testament, his dying writing. This book is what one man took out of life, and that just terrifies me because he's a very cynical man. He is very intelligent. So if this is a book that ends up being depressing, it's going to be so depressing. But if it's really hopeful, it's going to be so hopeful. I'm just excited. I'm excited. I'm terrified. I have no idea when I'm going to read this, but it's going to happen. Those are some of my 2019 goals. It's going to be a pretty busy year for me. With 150 books that I'm wanting to read. I am also going to be having very lengthy ones. But I'm gonna try. I feel like I met my last goal way too early, which I think was like in October. And at that point I was just like, okay, like I want a mad dash to the end. It's just like, I gotta get like 5 more books. Although I know that's not what reading's about, but I have a really competitive nature, and not with other people per se, but I have a really competitive nature with myself. Like I want to just improve every year. You guys have an excellent day. Have an excellent new year. I cannot wait to see you all in my next video. Awkward outro.